What if I told you that the most complex, bustling, and frankly alien metropolis on Earth isn't a city at all? It's actually located right inside your own stomach. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to map out the ultimate master regulator of your health, your longevity, and your multi-organ balance, your gastrointestinal tract.
Let's just wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this place for a second. There are roughly 100 trillion microorganisms hanging out in your gut right now. 100 trillion! To put that astronomical number into perspective, they encode a genetic data set that absolutely dwarfs your own human genome by orders of magnitude. We are talking about bacteria, archaea, fungi, and viruses, all coexisting in this massively teeming dynamic ecosystem.
For the longest time, science just viewed these microbes as passive passengers, just along for the ride. But we now know they function as a highly active metabolic organ. With these microscopic residents continuously shaping your digestion, tuning your immune system, and literally dictating the rate at which you age, we have to ask a pretty wild question. Who is actually pulling the strings here? Are we hosting them, or are they operating us?
Section 1. Meet your microbial metropolis.
So let's take a tour of this inner city. While the total population is incredibly diverse, a staggering 90% of this microbial society belongs to just two main bacterial groups, Firmicutes and Bacteroidetes. The remaining 10% is made up of smaller groups like Actinobacteria and Verrucomicrobia, which, actually as we'll see in just a moment, punch way above their weight class.
Just like any major city, the environment changes dramatically depending on what neighborhood you're in. As you travel down the gut, you start in the proximal colon. This is a fast-paced, highly acidic zone sitting at a pH of around 5.5. It's totally defined by the rapid fermentation of dietary carbohydrates by these specialized butyrate-producing anaerobes. But as you move further down into the distal colon, the available fiber dwindles. The pH rises to a more neutral 6.5, the fermentation process slows way down, and your acetate and propionate-producing bacteria move in to expand into that vacated niche.
Section 2. The body's chemical factory. Okay, so these microbes aren't just taking up real estate for fun. They operate this massive, continuous chemical bioreactor, converting your food into incredibly powerful bioactive molecules. Different microbial citizens specialize in totally different outputs. For instance, your firmicutes in the proximal colon are the heavy lifters for producing butyrate. Bacteroides in the distal colon, they output acetate and propionate. And Verrucomicrobiola, like the famous Akkermansia, well, they hang out right in the epithelial mucus layer. What's absolutely wild here is that the butyrate produced is the preferred energy source for your colon cells. It literally supplies up to 70% of the energy they need just to survive.
The really crucial takeaway is that these outputs, specifically these short-chain fatty acids, or SCFAs, are far more than just local cellular fuel. These molecules actually cross the mucosal barrier, enter your bloodstream, and act like system-wide VIPs. They trigger the release of hormones like GLP-1 and PYY to slow down gastric emptying and tell your brain, hey, we're full. On top of that, they actively dampen inflammatory signals and promote immune tolerance, ensuring your body doesn't accidentally attack itself.
Section 3. Highways to distant organs. So these chemical signals don't just stay in the gut. They travel along dedicated biological highways to communicate directly with your most vital organs. Take the gut-brain axis, for example. You might think your brain is completely in charge of your mood, right? Well, specialized cells in your gut actually sense microbial metabolites and synthesize more than 90% of your body's serotonin. That serotonin then sends signals right up the vagus nerve to directly influence your emotional processing. Your tiny microbial masters are quite literally impacting how you feel on a daily basis.
But this highway goes both ways, and sometimes it transports some pretty dangerous cargo. There's this fascinating idea called the Braque hypothesis, which suggests Parkinson's disease might actually begin down in the gut, decades before any motor symptoms even appear. The theory is that if the gut barrier leaks, it can cause proteins to misfold. Those damaged proteins can then travel almost domino style, right up the vagus nerve and straight into the brainstem. We also see similar dedicated communication lines to other major organs. The gut-liver axis is huge. About 75% of the liver's blood flow arrives directly from the gut via the portal vein. So if harmful bacterial toxins like LPS manage to slip through a compromised gut barrier, they can drive chronic inflammation that can eventually progress all the way to cirrhosis. On the flip side, looking at the gut-skin axis, healthy microbial outputs actively enhance skin hydration and barrier assembly. But a disrupted microbiome?
That directly fuels inflammatory conditions like psoriasis and eczema.
Section 4. The secret to extreme longevity.
As we journey through life, our microbial metropolis undergoes a really dramatic transformation, one that can quite literally determine whether we face physical frailty or achieve extreme longevity. Studies show that as people age, their microbiomes take one of two diverging paths. Folks who retain a static, unchanged microbial population heavily dominated by bacteroids tend to exhibit greater physical frailty and higher systemic inflammation. But healthy centenarians? It's a totally different story. Their microbiomes progressively acquire high compositional uniqueness. They maintain massive diversity and see an enrichment of specialized bacteria like Akkermansia.
And those specialized bacteria in centenarians? They come with a built-in superpower. They encode enzymes that generate incredibly rare molecules like iso-allo-LCA. This is a specialized secondary bile acid isomer that acts basically like a smart bomb natural antibiotic. Even in tiny, nanomolar concentrations, iso-allo-LCA selectively destroys the membranes of dangerous pathogens like C. diff. But the best part? It completely spares the neighboring healthy bacteria. It is an absolutely incredible built-in defense mechanism that preserves resilience in extreme old age.
Section 5. Medicine's next frontier. Recognizing the microbiome as our master controller has completely revolutionized modern medicine. We are moving far, far beyond those generic, off-the-shelf probiotic supplements you see at the grocery store. We're now rapidly entering the era of live biotherapeutic products, or LBPs. Unlike first-generation probiotics, which rarely actually set up shop in your gut, these next-generation treatments are precision-engineered. They are designed to durably engraft into your system and literally fix broken metabolic pathways.
And listen, this isn't science fiction, it is clinical reality right now. We already have FDA-approved LBPs on the market for preventing severe, recurrent C. diff infections. Take Rebiota, approved in late 2022. It transplants a cryogenically preserved, broad consortium of bacteria to restore a healthy community. Then there's Vowst, approved in 2023, which is a purified bacterial spore preparation that you can literally just swallow in capsule form. Which, let's be honest, is a little mind-blowing to think about. Doctors are officially prescribing entire microbial ecosystems to cure diseases that traditional antibiotics simply cannot fix.
So as we wrap up this explainer, the fundamental takeaway is this. You are not just a single, isolated organism. You are a walking, talking, highly complex ecosystem. Your lifelong health, your brain function, and your entire aging trajectory are all directly tied to the metabolic outputs of the 100 trillion citizens living inside you right now. So the only real question left to ask yourself is, what exactly are you going to feed your trillion tiny masters tonight?